Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Alexa and Friends. I am Jeff Blankenburg and I'm your host today. And I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk about before we bring our awesome guest on. So the first thing that I wanted to share is you guys may have noticed we had a new little musical intro with a bunch of interesting links and facts about things that are happening around the world of Alexa. We're going to continue to evolve and grow with that. And one of the things that I really wanted to make sure I mentioned as you get into all of this is that we have a Slack channel. If you guys would like to participate and engage and meet a bunch of people that are working on and thinking about voice and specifically Alexa, we have a place for you. And you can go to alexa.design/Slack to be able to find more information. It'll get you right into the Slack, give you access to all of the channels, all of the people, and just an amazing community of people that are there, both Amazonians as well as a lot of people that are just working on things in voice in their lives. So very, very excited to make sure I share that with you. The other thing I wanted to mention is that if you've missed some of the episodes of Alexa and Friends and want to maybe get back and see or listen to some of the ones from previous episodes, we have a podcast now. And if you would like to check that out, you can go to alexa.design/podcast. There you'll find back issues of this show, Alexa and Friends. We have about 8 episodes up there right now, but we're launching another one every week, and we will eventually catch up to today. So if you haven't had a chance or you like listening to podcasts, maybe in your car, and enjoy this show, this is a great way to take advantage of that. All right, so let's get back to the action. I want to introduce my guest today. His name is Chris Wenneman, and he is on the Alexa Auto team. Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you inviting me on and excited to talk about all the things we got going on in automotive today.
Yeah, I am too. I actually just got a new car yesterday, and we'll get into that. I would love to know more about what you guys are doing and how this stuff works. But first, we need to talk about the jellyfish shirt because that is amazing. Where does one get a jellyfish shirt?
Personal aside, pre-pandemic, and I'm hoping then post-vaccine, we're big live music fans. Jam bands all the way, and so this is an homage to String Cheese Incident, who have jellyfish as one of their icons. So any SCI fans out there, this one's for you.
Very, very cool. All right. So I have a couple of questions that I like to ask my guests before we get started. And the first one, these should be really easy, by the way, but it's always interesting to get a perspective from people on their answers to these questions. So speaking of live jam bands, this is a really good segue to that. I want you to imagine for a moment that you have your own band, and that you and your team, your musician friends, have created your very first album, first collection of songs. You're ready to release it to the world. And what do you decide to name that album?
Ooh, well, in a past life, I actually had a band and a couple of bands over the years, and that was always a lot of fun. We never got to the point of making any albums, so I didn't actually have this problem. Okay. But I don't know. I would say the blank page effect. As a creator, as a musician, and even as an engineer, sometimes I have trouble with the very beginning of something when you just have the blank page and you're like, oh no. And I used to have a trick back in AP English in high school where I'd have that where I'd have to write that essay, and I'd stare at that blank page and go, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And then tell myself, well, in 60 minutes, I'm going to turn something in, so I might as well get started. And so I think I'd probably name it the blank page effect. I
like that. That's a cool name. But I think that's a good philosophy too, is sometimes you just got to get started, even if you don't know where you're going. You start knocking away a lot of those infinite possibilities. Right. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. So my other question is it takes a little storytelling, and then I need you to make a choice. So I want you to imagine you're in a large city, many city blocks, big buildings, all of that, and you're walking down the street and you realize that we'll say the place where the band you're going to see is playing is one street over, right? And so you can either walk all the way down and around that big city block to come back up to where you are about now, or you can see the building through an alley. And all you have to do is walk down that alley and you can get to the building. Now it's a brightly lit day. There's nothing dangerous at all about this alley. And it's a normal width alley, right? Maybe 2 people wide. And so as you start walking down the alley, you get about halfway there. You can see your destination. In front of you emerges a giant horse-sized duck. So I want you to imagine a very large duck standing in front of you. And it doesn't look friendly. This is not a friendly duck. This isn't like Big Bird. This is a big duck, and he looks a little menacing. And so as any reasonable person would do, you turn around and you're like, I'll take the long walk. I'm going to go back out the way I came. But as you turn around, that end is then filled in with 100 duck-sized horses, very, very small horses. They also don't look terribly friendly. And the question I am asking to you is, now that you're in this alley and you have an option at either end, knowing that you're probably going to have some kind of conflict or fight on the way out, which way would you choose to go?
Well, let's see. 1-to-1 or 1-to-many? I think I'll take the 1-to-1. Ducks also have a pretty soft underbelly, and that duck being that much larger probably exposes more of the underbelly. So even if we do get in a conflict, I think I have a better chance with the horse-sized duck than with 100 duck-sized horses.
So I've probably asked this question to 50 guests. You were the first one that's actually brought like duck anatomy into the game, and I think this is wonderful. I hadn't considered.
I haven't thought about this beforehand, but no,
for a moment that like if the duck is up more elevated, you've got a lot of room to maybe get underneath it. They're not super nimble. I mean, they can probably get their beak up under their belly too, but I think
the beak you have to contend with. And the beak might be dangerous, but I'm also reminded of the superhero movies where they're overrun with many, many things and are able to be taken down. And I'm no superhero, so I don't think I'd stand a chance against 100.
I'm with you, man. At a minimum, I would make an effort to try to ride it, right? Like, let's get up on that duck and have it fun. Now we've got some serious fun. All right. Well, that's enough nonsense. Thank you for entertaining me with my silly questions. What I'd like to do now is start by having you kind of explain for me what your role is here at Amazon, and then leaving all of this out initially, I want you to go back and share with us kind of how you got here. So let's talk about what you do here today. Why are we meeting, and what is your role with Alexa?
Yeah. So I am director of software at Amazon. I've been at Amazon now almost 14 years. Nice. But currently I am on the Alexa Auto team. So I lead engineering for Alexa Auto. So this is everything from the software we use to embed Alexa into the head unit of the car, as well as the mobile app experiences, to the back-end software that we build in order to support the vehicle experience.
Okay. Very, very cool. So now we got to take a journey back, because when people hear that, they hear your title, like you're very involved in software, you're very involved in the automotive side of our business, and installing local software in a car is a complex, challenging concept on its own, right? You don't have a lot of the necessary access for updates and stuff like that either. So most people, when they hear that, they're like, oh, this guy came up as an automotive guy, or this guy came up as a software engineer. That's what he's always wanted to do. I'm guessing that's probably not entirely true, but I'd love to hear your journey. If we start you maybe in college, where did you go to school? What did you go to school for? And then what were the jumps that led you to where you are today?
Yeah. So let's see. I went to school at Florida State back in the 90s and majored in computer science. I was lucky in the fact that I knew I wanted to go into software development in some capacity. And this actually goes back even earlier to when I was a sysadmin for a BBS, if anybody remembers bulletin board systems.
Of course. Back
in the 80s, right? And got into computers then, and really enjoyed it. I was having a lot of fun. I remember the first time I was able to dial up another computer and actually chat live with like 8 people dialed into the same computer. Like that was a monumental big deal. But anyway, I digress. So I went to Florida State for computer science, and while there, the last 2 years, I actually then got a job writing software for a voicemail company. So I actually got a little bit of experience, coding and in industry, and realized, yeah, this is something I enjoy. This is something I want to do.
Yeah.
So out of college, this was also, so I went to Florida State. I had gotten into other colleges out of state, but my dad wisely at the time said, I'm not going to let you take out a lot of loans. You get out of your education what you put into it, and so hence Florida State, and he was right. Surprise, surprise. And so out of college, then I got a job at Harris Corporation in Melbourne, Florida. So Central Florida on the East Coast. If you go due east out of Orlando and hit the water, you're in Cocoa Beach, Melbourne area.
Okay.
I spent 2 years there and had a lot of fun learning a lot of different areas. Harris is a unique company. They're a defense contractor, but they build very large software systems, but they build one of something. Like they built the NCIS national database for the FBI, right? There's like one of those, right?
Right.
So
yeah, they're not building a scalable system that lots and lots of people can use. They're building it for one customer, one specific solution.
Yeah, and so from there, then the dot-com boom was going on, and I got into a startup doing wireless data modems. Did that for probably 3 or 4 years. Bubble burst, and I was lucky enough to actually go work at NASA for a little while.
That's a good bubble. The bubble burst when you land at NASA. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We were working on the checkout and launch control system for the space shuttle. So I actually got to actually see a shuttle launch from essentially the firing room, and that was pretty amazing. That was living in Florida, and especially living in Brevard County on the Space Coast, we'd see launches all the time, but it was something different when you were only a mile away from the launch pad. Like that was something special. From there, I went to a small company doing radio propagation analysis. And so this was actually one of my first, I think at Harris, I had gotten some geospatial introduction as well. And then this was basically doing radio propagation analysis for AM, FM, TV broadcasts. So, be able to model a broadcast antenna and then tell where it interferes with things around it. So spent several years there, and then got back into the startup game with RFID wristbands. And we basically had a cashless payment system where you could, where the wristband was linked to your credit card. And so in a venue, you could then make a purchase with your wristband and not need to take your wallet out of your pocket. So NASCAR race, water park, these were great at.
Yeah, Disney World did something like that.
So Disney we pitched Disney on this back. This is now circa 2004 timeframe. Oh, okay. We actually pitched Disney on this. And basically they were like, the infrastructure cost is just too much for us. We can't do this. Roll the clock forward 15 years. They finally did do it. So we were literally ahead of our time.
Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad.
Yeah. But as you can see, like none of this is automotive.
Right.
And then that RFID cashless payment company, ironically enough, we ran out of cash. And so I actually found another job for a short stint, but my resume was out there and Amazon had picked up my resume. I found another stint at a company, Live TV, doing rear seat entertainment in JetBlue. If you've ever been on JetBlue, that's a company, Live TV, that's actually based in Melbourne, Florida.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Funny enough, it's actually, that technology is a spinoff of the first company I worked at, Harris, where they had won the contract for Air Force One and developed the technology to track satellites at like 500 miles an hour while you're in a plane, so that Air Force One could get live TV. And then Harris spun that company off, and then JetBlue loved the technology so much they actually bought the company. So I worked there for a little while, and then Amazon got my resume, gave me a call, and said you should, did the phone screens and all, and said you should come out to Seattle. Ironically enough, at the time, my wife and I had just had baby number one. Baby was like not even a year old. She was pregnant with baby number two, and we were like, "Nah, now is not the right time. Like this is, and the Amazon recruiter actually at the time was like, look, either you're going to come to Seattle and interview with us or you're not." I was like, okay, let me fly out. And I met just amazing people on the interview loop. And I was so impressed with the caliber of folks that I would have the opportunity to work with. And that was one of the things that just really sold me. I was like, wow, I could work with these folks that are this much smarter than I am. Like, okay, I think this is something we should do. So packed up the house and the family and moved to the other corner of the continental U.S. in Seattle. And so from there, I joined the transportation team. I did a number of different things in transportation around analytics and metrics for basically our on-time delivery performance, transit time analysis, which again was more geospatial work, where we estimate how long it will take to ship something based on our previous deliveries, so that we can then decide whether to use ground ship methods or air ship methods, and then also worked on customer returns there. And so that was a lot of fun, but I wanted to get back to consumer electronics. In some of those previous jobs, I had done customer facing, devices and software, and wanted to get back to something a little bit more customer devices, customer facing. And so at that point, our Amazon devices, there was only one, and it was the Kindle. And there were a bunch of secret projects that nobody knew anything about that I got then recruited onto, and come to find out after I had accepted the offer to join the team, on that first day, on that day one, I learned that we were building a phone. Like, oh, wow, okay, Amazon's getting into the phone game. This is circa 2011 now.
Yeah.
And so so at that time, I actually, there weren't a lot of people on the project. It was very early days. And I was given the task of, we're building a phone and we don't have Google Maps. So what do we do? And so that was pretty interesting. It was a lot of fun. It's pretty daunting, had a lot to learn. And, I'd had a little bit of geospatial experience before this, but nothing, consumer grade maps or anything like that. But that's one of the things that I love about Amazon, is that Amazon is willing to invest in people, to teach, and to give people opportunities to learn new areas and invest in them. And so I was lucky enough to be able to lead that team. We eventually then launched the Maps app on the Fire Phone, as well as the Maps API on the Fire Phone and tablets. And then after the Fire Phone, went up in flames, as it were, we had to decide what to do with Maps. And so I then made the pitch that, Maps are strategic, important to Amazon, and where they're most important is actually in transportation, where I just came from. So I actually moved the Maps team over to the last mile transportation team to focus on the delivery driver experience and navigation for our drivers, as well as then multi-point package routing, right, which requires map data and traffic information in order to do that route planning. So did that for a little while, then decided, okay, I'm taking something I know in maps, applying it to another thing I know in transportation. So let me go do something that I don't know anything about. And that actually took me over to AWS at that point. Because at that point too, I'd also had, I'd been in retail and operations, which is kind of one arm of Amazon. I had been in digital devices, which is the second arm of Amazon. So I was like, let me go see what this third arm of Amazon is all about with web services. So I joined the Amazon S3 team as the director of software there for storage management, and put together a team there to launch several different things there with storage analysis, as well as then storage classes. And then after a couple of years, I said, I really miss devices. I want to get back to that. And so I then got connected to this small team that was trying to do something in automotive. And I said, oh, well, this is interesting. What are we going to do in automotive?
Right.
And so from there, I was able to join, again, a small team, again, joining an area that I knew nothing about with automotive.
Right.
and be able to then learn and grow the team to where we're at now, with being able to launch the Alexa experience embedded in the head unit, as well as then mobile experiences. So yeah, it's been a
good journey. I mean, you've had some incredible experiences in your career, and I like the recurring theme of going someplace I don't have any knowledge or experience with. I think that's an incredible way to learn and grow. So I like that story, man. You've had quite a background.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
so you landed on this Alexa Auto team. Were you one of the first people on that team, or did you come into a team that was kind of established?
I came in and the team was just getting off of the ground. Okay. And one of the reasons that I joined is that the team had just put together basically, a PR FAQ, right? Our 6-page, narrative on our automotive strategy. And I read that doc and was like, okay, this is compelling. The team had also recruited an automotive veteran, vice president, Ned Couric, onto the team. And so that really told me that, okay, we're serious about this. This is not something we're just dipping our toe in the water. That although I know nothing about automotive, they're not relying solely on, people being able to learn. We're actually going and getting experts who know the industry, who can then teach those of us like myself who know nothing about automotive. Beautiful. and then go. So it was kind of the beginning of that strategy where we were putting together, we knew we wanted to bring voice into the car. We knew that there was a fundamental problem that we wanted to solve with customers, which is that voice recognition in the car. Now, the car was one of the first places that voice recognition was introduced, like all the way back in the 80s. Yeah. But then the technology never really evolved or improved that much, right? Yep. And if you looked at customer surveys, J.D. Power and Associates would rank voice recognition as one of the top dissatisfaction for customers. That and Bluetooth seem to always flip and flop.
I can tell you many stories about Bluetooth. I mean, I have a fantastic pair of Bose headphones here. I love these when they work, right? If I can keep them connected and keep them paired with stuff, it's amazing.
Yep.
But every time I pick them up, I'm like, I hope this is the time it works, right? Because you're never really sure. And I can see that with voice recognition as well. There was a time where the Alexa had already been released, and I had a car that had some basic voice recognition stuff in it, and it never worked. And so I was comparing and contrasting my experience with the early Alexa with the car voice assistant, and it was so bad, so terribly bad. And I'm glad that we as an industry are thinking about this, because I think the car is one of the most obvious places to have voice, because I shouldn't have my phone out. I should be paying attention to the road and what I'm doing. And maybe 10 years from now we're having a different conversation, because I take naps when I drive now and whatever. But we're not there yet. Right. I'm with you. So what would you say if well, let me reset first. I always like to remind people what we're doing here and how we're doing this. So this is Chris Wenneman from the Alexa Auto team. He's the director of software. Is that the appropriate title? I think I had that right. And we're talking about Alexa Auto and what they're doing in the car with Alexa. So if you can kind of sum up for me, what is the mission or the vision of Alexa Auto?
Yeah, it's it's really about a couple of different things, but the vision is to give customers a natural way to interface with their vehicle, right? And to go beyond the vehicle, right? To get information and news and entertainment, as well as connect back from your vehicle to your home, right? And be able to then control smart home. So being able to bring your digital life into the digital cabin of the future is what we're trying to do.
Love that. And so when we think about the auto industry as a whole, where do you see it headed, and what role does Alexa Auto play in that?
Yeah, the auto industry is interesting. They've been around for a very long time, right? And they are fantastic at what they do, right? Which is manufacturing, which is assembly, which is mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. They do that at high volume, high quality, and it's a choreographed dance that they're able to do. But what we see happening is the auto industry is going through now a digital transformation, right? They are historically a mechanical industry, but they're going through this digital transformation where they're having to deal with the connected car. They're having to deal with electrification of the car, having to deal with autonomy of the car, as well as then ride sharing of the vehicle. And like all of these different forces are fundamentally altering and changing the automotive industry and putting them through this digital transformation that Amazon is actually well positioned to help them through that digital transformation.
For sure. So as you've gotten into this, and I would imagine there are a lot of surprises, but as you think about the manufacturers of vehicles, I mean, it feels weird to say in 2021 that they're starting to have their digital transformation, because it seems like a lot of what we want cars to do could have been possible 15, 20 years ago, but they were relatively resistant to the idea that there was going to be new technology introduced into vehicles. So is there anything for you that's kind of a surprise? Like as you look at the manufacturers and you say, man, I didn't expect that, or this is surprising.
Maybe not a surprise as much as, I don't want to, the automotive industry does deal with a lot of software, but the software that they historically deal with is safety critical systems, right? There's, prior to having a center console screen, there was already a lot of code running inside of the vehicle, right? All the way back to, electronic fuel injection, right? Yep. And then anti-lock brakes, right? Like all those are really complicated software systems that are safety critical. And so the automotive industry is very good at safety critical software development. They're experts in that. And thankfully, and I'm thankful for that, because our lives do depend on it, right? And they have made the vehicles safer over the years. And maybe one thing that was surprising is that that translating that safety critical software then to the cabin software is not a straight line. And in some cases, they've taken more of a straight line route to, okay, well, I know software development, I know how to build safe software, therefore I know how to build digital experiences for the cabin. And that's not to say that the cabin software does not need to be safe, right? Driver distraction is a real problem, right? And so as a father with teenagers who will be driving soon, like I'm definitely aware of like what this, what different distractions the driver has in the vehicle. And that's why introducing that, giving drivers that experience that they want and they need in the center console, so that you don't need to pick up your phone, right? Because you can do everything. And if you can do everything then with your voice, you can keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. And that's really the goal.
Yeah, I agree. Is there any major technical challenges that you guys have had to overcome as you get into this? And I do want to take apart like what you guys are thinking about and how we're getting into that. But are there any major technical challenges you guys have run into?
Well, Jeff, they're not really challenges; they're opportunities.
Opportunities. I like that. That's a good word. One opportunity is that the software development for the cabin is highly fragmented, right? Different automotive manufacturers do different things for their center console, right? What we call the IVI, or the in-vehicle infotainment system, right? And so different vehicle manufacturers do different things, and even the same vehicle manufacturer will do different things in different car lines, right? And so there's no app store for that you can reach all of the vehicles on the road, right? You can't write once and run anywhere or anything like that, right? And so that's been both a challenge and an opportunity. And part of the reason why then for embedding Alexa into the head unit, we've actually developed the Alexa Auto SDK, where we go down and just to the code level and we say, here is the cross-platform code that you need, that you can use to actually build Alexa into the vehicle, because it's so different between different manufacturers. Yeah.
We give them the flexibility to then adapt the Alexa code and the implementation to their digital cabin.
Got it. And so what you're really describing though is your SDK creates a set of endpoints from the user interface, and then they have a set of endpoints inside their vehicle to check things like fuel levels and whatever other things you may want to monitor in the car. And their job is to stitch those together, right? So we have the SDK and we have their stuff, and there's an intermediate layer. It's like the capillaries of the car, right? We have all of the stuff kind of converging in between those. I like that. That's a good way to think about it. So we've provided the upper level, the stuff that should run on the infotainment center, the stuff that should connect to all the pieces that are available, and then they just hook up the ones that make sense for their vehicle. Is that?
Yeah. Okay. A good way to think about it at an API layer is we provide a set of callbacks. So we allow the auto manufacturer, the OEM, to then register what the vehicle capabilities are with us and tell us what their implementation is able to do, so that we then transmit those vehicle capabilities to the back end, so that when you ask Alexa something to do in the vehicle, we can then check, like, Alexa, roll down the windows. We can then check, okay, have they wired up the callback mechanism for us to be able to roll down the windows? And if yes, okay, send the directive back to the vehicle to then call back to the onboard system to say, okay, roll down the windows of the car.
Got it. All right, so we've started talking at a high level about some of this stuff, but I think it might be a good time to pause and introduce people to how some of this works. So I know you and I have a couple of videos that we can show. Is there one specifically we should start with?
Yeah, probably the Elaine video. It gives a good overview of kind of the connectivity of the vehicle to the rest of the Alexa implementations. So
right, let's jump into that, and we will be right back.
Mom, What are you doing? The house is still wide open, and I don't even know where we're going.
Alexa, lock the front door. Alexa, close the garage. Alexa, navigate to Starlight Drive-In.
Getting directions now. Elaine.
Amazon Alexa for every car.
I like that. That's a good one. Pretty funny. So I think that gives a good illustration, right? We're able to interact with the car, but we're also able to interact with all of our Alexa devices that we already had connected through smart home or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, and essentially your vehicle is another Alexa endpoint. It's another Alexa device as part of your current Alexa life. And so you can also do things like drop in to other Alexa devices, at home. You can do, announcements. You can control your smart home. You can make sure that your garage door is closed and that you remember to turn the coffee pot off.
I like that. Things. Hey, this is just a curiosity question. So you mentioned the drop-in. I know with drop-in, like on my Echo Show here behind me, if I drop in on another device that has a camera, I can see and we can communicate via video. Now, obviously, the cars don't have video cameras built right into them, but am I able to see someone else on the infotainment center if I try to drop in on someone?
So here's where we need to be cognizant of, driver distraction and make sure that we're taking that into account. And so the short answer is that that video drop-in converts into an audio drop-in, right?
Got it. So you only push the audio piece through.
Right. Now, what we're working on and where we're going is that we then want to take more context from the vehicle and be able to be smarter contextually about your current situation. Because if you are in park, for instance,
right,
I actually can show you the video,
Yep.
And if you do have a in-cabin camera in your vehicle, then I could actually show you as long as you're in park. Right. And so we want to take that context and do the right thing for the driver experience.
I love that. So that's exactly where I was headed is, does Alexa today have that kind of contextual knowledge to know, I know a good example of this is if I want to search in I have a Jeep Wrangler. In my Jeep Wrangler, if I want to search for stuff on the console, I have to be doing less than maybe 2 miles or 1 mile an hour. Or obviously be in park, but usually it's like you're sitting at a stop sign, but you're not in park, but it'll let you do that. And then if you exceed the speed limit, whatever that is, it'll immediately freeze the screen and you can't interact with it anymore. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know, do we have as that capability? It sounds like something we're probably ready for, but do cars provide that kind of capability to Alexa yet?
This is where, again, different OEMs have different kind of capabilities, and even different vehicles have different kind of capabilities. And that's what we're working with OEMs to then take advantage of, for that vehicle that has those more advanced features. We want to be able to take advantage of it for Alexa as well. But I think you highlight one area that we have focused a lot of energy on, which is local search and navigation, right? Because typing things in is
painful.
Yes, thank you. It's very challenging. That is and hence the opportunity where voice just simplifies that experience. But even historically, the voice recognition systems, when you're trying to input a destination by voice, it would be, okay, what state are you looking for? What city are you looking for? Okay, now tell me the street. Okay, now tell me the house number. And it's like, who talks like that? Nobody.
Right. And they're just filtering a list for you. That's all.
That's exactly right. And so this is where Alexa's natural language understanding is super powerful to allow customers to just talk to the onboard navigation system the way that they would talk to a passenger if they were looking for directions.
Okay, I like that. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about your team, right? So when we think about the work that your team is doing, and obviously we have Deepa in the chat mentioning to people that there are opportunities. There's job opportunities not only on the Alexa Auto team, but on the Alexa team more broadly. What is appealing? Like, if you were trying to sell someone on why they should come to the Alexa Auto team, what are the cool things that you guys are building or working on?
Yeah. For auto, well, for Alexa, all up. I mean, Alexa is a lot of fun because
Yes.
we're focused on a new interaction model, right, with voice, and we absolutely believe in the vision that in the future, voice is going to be an indispensable way that we interact with the machines around us. Just the way that keyboards and mice are today, right? Voice will be a fundamental way that we fundamental input mechanism, right? So Alexa All Up is just a lot of fun from that perspective. But for automotive, we're taking that voice experience into the digital cabin. But then we are even going further. So we recently also released something called the Alexa Custom Assistant, where we actually are enabling automotive OEMs and other device manufacturers to build their own custom assistant on top of Alexa technology, where they can have their own custom wake word, they can have their own voice, they can build their own custom skills, and then their assistant and Alexa can actually work hand in hand and hand off between them, so that if you ask, say, Alexa about controlling the windows in your car, she can actually invoke the automotive OEM's assistant to take that action, and vice versa, that if you ask the OEM's assistant about something that Alexa knows about, they can hand back, right? So we're really focused on that complete end-to-end voice experience in the car, and we kind of have a mantra of like no dead ends. We don't want to tell a customer, sorry, I can't help you with that, right? We want to be able to, anything that you can see in the car, we want you to be able to say. And as cars move to more screens and move to more menu systems rather than buttons and dials, finding, how often do you struggle to find the right setting in your phone, right? Imagine that, but in your car, right? And voice can absolutely address that real problem that customers have.
Yeah, I often explain that problem when people ask me, hey, I'm building Alexa skills. When we have this mobile app, we have a website, what should we build first? What should be the first thing we voice enable? And my rule of thumb is always, I use the Wizard of Oz as an example. Anything that takes 3 clicks or more to get to is something that you should really think of. Like, that should be your priority. Yep. If I can open your mobile app and I have the data I need right there, it's probably not as important right away for me to be voice enabling that. Although it's nice and handy. The stuff that I have to dig through menus, as you're describing, that's the stuff that I really, really want voice enabled, because it takes me a long time, even in a manual digital sense, right, to dig through all those menus and find exactly what I'm looking for.
Yep. Yeah, spot on. And for auto, we're then looking to also do even more, right? This is a long-term investment for Amazon, right? One of the other things I just love about Amazon is that we do think long-term, right? And I saw that, again, going back to when I joined Alexa Auto, I saw that in the first PR FAQ, where it was like, okay, we have a strategy for the cars that are on the road as well as the new cars, but here is our longer term vision and strategy to really bring your digital life into the car. And you see some of this already with some of the things we're doing with Fire TV and rear seat entertainment, and bringing more of the Amazon digital services into the cabin of the vehicle.
Yeah. So working at Amazon, we always talk about innovation and invention. Are there anything specifically that we've invented around Alexa Auto that is kind of novel or cool that you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's been quite a few. I'm actually humbled by how much invention our teams have been able to do, beyond just the metric of how many patents we've actually filed in this space. The team has taken on a lot of interesting problems and invented novel solutions for them. So one of which is actually the car control, right? And being able to essentially take what we've learned about smart home and the way that customers interact with and control their smart home, and translate that into the vehicle and actually turn it into a smart vehicle, right? But then deal with and invent different paradigms for the actual vehicle environment, which is unique and different than your smart home, right? That's been an interesting and fun challenge.
Yeah, that sounds very cool. There's a question in the chat, and this is something that I've been thinking about as well. I would imagine you have a pretty good answer for this. How does Alexa work in a vehicle that may not always have an internet connection?
Yeah. So first and foremost, Alexa is a connected service, right? And so we do we have different strategies that we use for that connectivity, right? But we also then do provide local voice control, and so we have we call them the core 4 domains for the vehicle. Domains in Alexa parlance are like her vertical knowledge centers, right? Okay. And those core domains are, car control, communications, navigation, and entertainment. And so our local voice control can still handle those domains when you lose your connectivity, so that when you're driving through the mountains and you don't have an internet connection, you can still roll down the windows with Alexa and enjoy the fresh mountain air.
Got it. So that was what I was expecting, is that the device itself is intercepting using the SDK to say, oh, this is a command that goes locally to the car, or, oh, this is a command like play music that goes out to the cloud to get something. Yep. You're making that decision locally, and then if it's local, you can still do all the local stuff. But when it comes to the cloud-based services that you might try to tie into, like listening to music, I would imagine you probably just get a very common error, like, I'm sorry, I don't have connection to the internet right now, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, again, no dead ends.
Yeah.
So even in that case, we then want to try to satisfy your request, but with like onboard media, and say, well, here's an FM station, and that plays the type of music that you're asking.
I like it.
Or here's a Sirius XM station, right? So we're always looking for ways to still satisfy and still solve the problem for the customer and not give them a dead end.
I like that. And no dead ends, that's a really good term for Alexa Auto, right? I think that's good.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the innovations like car control, but is there anything that stands out to you for like customer facing improvements? Like when we think about having an impact on customers' lives, is there something that stands out to you from the Alexa Auto side that is like, man, this is the game changer. This is the thing that really made a big deal?
Let's see. Well, I can speak from my own personal experience.
Sure.
Let me put it that way. There's no surprise that most of what you do in the car is, music and entertainment, right? That's what people enjoy doing when they're driving, and I'm no exception there. But what I love and have enjoyed with having Alexa in my vehicle is that when I have my kids with me, we'll do round robin and everybody gets to pick a song. And it's super simple to then and they can even ask Alexa to play their song. Now, sometimes Dad, the rule in our car is that the driver has veto power. And so sometimes Dad will say, whoa, no, we're not, I can't listen to that one for the 80th time today.
You can only take so much Baby Shark, right?
Right, but having that, the entire music catalog, at the tip of your tongue to just ask Alexa for in the vehicle is just a lot of fun, and it makes drives with the family just that much more fun too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I even see that at home sometimes, where there is so much more music played in our house now that we have Alexa than we ever did before. It was always a little bit more of a chore to get music on, right? You had to like Bluetooth to a speaker, or you had to set up a stereo, which I don't have any like stereo equipment in my house anymore. But Man, I agree with you. It's made such an incredible change in our the way we think about and have access to music.
Mhm.
All right. So for you personally, have there been any like fun experiences that you've had because of your interaction with Alexa Auto? I'm specifically thinking of like, I know you've had some time with the Lamborghini team.
Yeah, Lamborghini is definitely been a lot of fun. They're a great team. They're auto manufacturer and OEM, and so and this goes back to, I mean, I'm a personal fanboy back to the Lamborghini Countach in the 80s, right? Like that just was set the scene kind of a thing. Also, I'm a big Transformers fan, so then I think it's Sideswipe that was the Lamborghini Countach.
Good call.
Was my favorite Transformer. So anyway, so getting to actually then work with Lamborghini was just a dream come true kind of a thing for me personally.
Yeah, you're like a child in a candy store.
Right. But then my job actually got pulled into it, and the CTO of Lamborghini, Maurizio, great guy, but he had a lot of concerns about bringing Alexa into the Lamborghini cabin, and I'm on the phone with him, and he's like, well, Chris, do you know how loud it is inside of a Lamborghini? Like the engine just screams. Like, how are people going to talk to Alexa? And I was like, Maurizio, no, I don't know what it sounds like inside of a Lamborghini cabin, but I would love to know. And he was like, well, you come to Italy, you and I will show you. And so I did. And he sat me down in the cabin, and he was like, here. And we had we just had the initial implementation of Alexa in Lamborghini. And so, we're driving in one of those prototypes, and he's like, you test, I'll drive, and we'll see if it works. And so he put that engine through its paces. Oh my Lord. And it screamed. And I mean, Lamborghinis are fast, but they're even faster with someone who knows how to drive them. And Maurizio knows how to drive it.
Yeah, I would hope.
And so I'm sitting there in the passenger seat, with like, a sheet of paper with all the test utterances of the different domains that we support, trying to test. And he's like, okay, wait, and then he like just floors it, and the engine is screaming, and I'm trying to talk to Alexa, and she can't hear me.
Right.
And then, but then she does several times over. And then he goes, okay, but wait, Lamborghini drivers don't use the brakes when they're slowing down. You use the engine to slow down. I was like, this doesn't, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, let me show you, and so then we're flying, down the road, and he just starts downshifting, and the engine just spikes into the red, and it's howling, and I'm trying to talk to Alexa, and she can't hear me. And so after this test drive, Maurizio is just like, see, Chris, you see my concern now. I was like, yes, I absolutely see your concern. But I asked him, Maurizio is a great guy, very, very down to earth. And I was like, but Maurizio, in those scenarios, could a Lamborghini driver be able to talk on the phone? He was like, well, no. It's like, well, if you can't talk on the phone to somebody, I don't think it's reasonable for us to expect them to be able to talk to Alexa in those scenarios either. And he was like, oh, Chris, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yes. And that is a great way that we can explain it to our owners, that when you can talk to someone on the phone, you can talk to Alexa. But if you cannot be on the phone, well, when you're driving in those scenarios, well, then you cannot talk to Alexa.
Right.
Yes,
that sounds
simple.
reasonable.
Simple solution.
should we give people a little preview of the Lamborghini video?
Sure.
All right, let's let everybody see what this looks like.
Your driving playlist on Amazon Music. Okay. Okay, temperature is increased. Okay. Calling wife. Okay.
That looks amazing. I feel like maybe I'm going to need to fly to Italy and do an interview.
Yeah, life goals, Jeff.
Right. Absolutely. So we only have a couple minutes left. And so one of the things that I'd like to kind of wrap up here with is get a feel from you as to what your personal view of the future looks like. Where do you see us 5 or 10 years from now? I know I kind of hinted at earlier the idea that I could take a nap or, just sit and watch a movie while I'm driving somewhere with the when we get to the future of autonomy and stuff like that. But what does the future look like to you from your seat in the world?
Yeah. Well, I'm reminded of something that Jeff espouses when thinking about the future, that it's often not, it's amazing how much things stay constant, right? And how things don't change, right? And some of the, especially when it comes to customer desires, like there's never, it's hard to imagine a scenario where customers would say, I want to pay more for that product or get it shipped slower to me, right? And so when it comes to automotive, this is where I think things like, entertainment in the cabin is not something that is going to, that desire is not going to wane, right? And so I think that this is where Amazon's, digital services, as well as Alexa skills, as well as all the different, stream providers, as well as in streaming media and videos, like I see just more of that coming into the digital cabin, right? Because it's what we enjoy doing when we're driving, and I think that we just have a lot more that we can even offer. And then when you do get to the point of more, higher level L4, L5 autonomy, even more so that the driver can partake. But in the interim, passengers in the vehicle, will also do that. I remember when my kids were a lot younger, of having the rear seat entertainment was great. I remember one of the first times we put that on, and I leaned over to my wife and I was like, do you hear that? She was like, no, I don't hear anything. I said, exactly. Because the kids are all watching a movie in the back.
Right. So a quick story right before we wrap up here. When my kids were younger, my kids are 17 and 13 now, but when they were younger, they were 8 and 4. They need a lot of attention when you're on a road trip, especially like a long one if you're driving to the beach or something. And there was a time where I found like every time she was driving and I was the passenger, that's when the kids needed everything. And it just used to frustrate me to no end. They'd drop something every 3 seconds and I'd have to turn around and pick it up. And like, I love my children and I love, engaging and playing and doing that. But like just picking Cheerios up off the ground was not my cup of tea at all. And so I made a rule, but it was a little bit later. It was probably like 6 and 10, where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to always drive from now on. I'll be the driver and you can help with the kids as we drive and it'll all be great. And that was right when like tablets exploded and like everybody had one. And so like the moment I made that choice, they then had activities of a great abundance so that they never needed anything. And my wife got to take naps and read books and all this other stuff. And she's like, no, I'm watching the kids. I'm doing that while you. And I was
Awesome.
like, well, I guess I lost that bet, but I mean, I don't mind driving, so it's good.
Good job, Dad.
All right. Well, hey, Chris, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. This has been a really interesting conversation. I learned a lot, and I think our audience, based on the conversations that I've seen in the chat, have been really good as well. So I want to make sure that I remind everybody here in the chat that there are links being posted by Deepa in the chat about opportunities. You can go to Amazon.jobs. You can search for Alexa. You can search for Alexa Automotive, and you can find a list of a lot of opportunities that are happening inside Amazon today. So if you're interested in working on some of the stuff that's Chris working on, or maybe just work with Chris or meet the team at Lamborghini, this might be the way for you to make that happen. So thank you guys all for tuning in so much. We will be back again next week with another awesome guest. And I can't wait to see you all there. So don't forget, if you want to be able to listen to these episodes, you can catch them on our podcast at alexa.design/podcast. And otherwise, we're going to sign off for today. So thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. Really
Bye,
enjoyed
everybody.
it.